Daphne is our WILF intern for the summer, and I'm going to have her just speak a little bit about her background. And we have two projects that she's going to work on so far. But if anybody has anything else, um, we're open to anything. So anyway, okay, Daphne, do you want to just say something to all of us?
Well, hi. I'm really excited to be here, so thank you for having me. Um, well, I'm in my second year of college. Well, I just finished it, so I'm gonna go into my third year of college. And I'm doing a double major in political science and peace and justice studies. And, that's kind of really a big part of my life has always been I've always been interested in geopolitics, and also I've always had a very strong sense of justice. Um, so I feel that it's like important for me to get involved in that type of work. Yeah.
And you go to school where?
Oh yeah, I go to school in New York.
Which school? With Peace and
Um,
Justice Studies.
it's Pace University. It's the only school in New York that has peace and justice studies.
Wonderful.
And it's in New York City, not far from the UN. And you spent a week at the UN.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about it? What you did, and
So I spent a week at the UN with two of my professors because we were there for the week for nuclear disarmament. And so during that week, we heard a lot of survivor testimonies as well as the the actual document for the disbandment of nuclear weapons was like spoken about, and um, what was it called? The representatives of countries were also speaking there as well.
so was this just recently at the MPT review, or was this the TPNW back, or when was this?
It was March 2025, so just a year ago, and it was with the TPNW.
Okay, good. I think Cheryl was there for that. Cheryl Spencer. And so one of the projects Daphne is going to be doing is hopefully doing minutes for disarm. And the other is we're going to be looking at colleges, particularly around where we have branches, that to get information about the practicum for the CSW, so that people, hopefully students all around the United States, will learn more about WILF and apply to the CSW. So that's kind of the goal of that.
And the CSW is
Commission on the Status for Women. That's held in March 8th, the International Women's Day. And so and Shilpa, she'll be working with Shilpa on that. And anybody else who wants to come. We're having meetings. I think this is right. What is it, Tuesday? Or when are we having our meetings that I'm meeting with you every week, Daphne? At,
It's
three
every
o'clock?
Monday at 3 p.m.
That's it. Every Monday at 3. So anybody can come to these. I'll be sending out the information. So we'll be meeting every week to discuss projects and just to see where Daphne is working and things like that. I see Jan has her hand raised.
Yeah, thanks, Diane. I don't mean to interrupt the flow or everything. And it's really, really, really so good to be here, and really happy to have you meet our new intern. But I just wanted to say a word about the CSW. I don't think Shilpa's here, is she? No, I didn't see her. But we have two programs that we offer that take place at the CSW, which is a whole week-long project. It's at the UN. It's the largest gathering of women, international gathering of women ever. So thousands of women attend. I think it gets to be a little more every year. Some things are on Zoom, so even more people are joining. And I see several people here that are with us that have been there. Odile's been there. She's been a representative. So we have two ways people can get involved. One is through the practicum program that Diane was just talking about and that Shilpa chairs. And then also for WILF members through the local to global program, and Diane's been part of that too. So maybe Diane, you'd like to weigh in on just a second or two about that.
Well, I think it's a great program, and I think it's what WILF is kind of known for, almost to some people, that we do have this program for CSW, and we've had it for a while. So, and it's a great way to experience the UN, and I just enjoy seeing all the costumes of the people that from Africa, especially war, and so yeah, they cover lots of great topics dealing with women. I don't know what the subject is or the theme is for the coming year, but they announce it every year. And so, but I see Charlotte's here. So, Charlotte.
Oh, great to see you all. I've been with WILF ever since I was a journalist in Lebanon in the early 70s. There's a wonderful woman there that got me interested. She actually got me to go on a trip to Iraq to investigate the Kurdish question. And then later she got me to go on a trip to Northern Ireland. This was all for WILF. We used to be sent on investigative missions, and it was a fantastic experience for me. And then I drifted away for a while. And then when I moved to Vermont, who do I meet but Robin Lloyd? My goodness, who's a stalwart. And so I've been a member of WILF on and off for quite a long time. And I think you're such savvy people. That's what makes it so delightful. Anyway, okay, my book is called Follow the Pipelines. I'm sure you're interested in the Strait of Hormuz, and I'm going to be talking about that. I think you're interested in Gaza, and you may even be interested in Lebanon. So I will try to make sense of that whole morass. Very briefly, how I got interested in this question of pipelines. Some of you know this story, some of you don't. My father was America's first master spy in the Middle East. He was sent over to Lebanon in 44. He was with the Office of Strategic Services, that's OSS, and he was in charge of counterintelligence. And this later morphed into the Central Intelligence Group, which was the immediate predecessor of the CIA. His last mission was to Saudi Arabia. This was in 47, and what he had to determine was the route of the Trans-Arabian Pipeline. This was a huge investment on the part of the Americans. They had a sole concession in Saudi Arabia, and they wanted to protect it. They had to protect this pipeline against sabotage and against any foreign policies that, frankly, other foreign powers were intensely jealous of Americans' exclusive concession, and for good reason, because it absolutely elevated the U.S. into a superpower. Saudi oil. It was so rich. So I just want to read from you one comment that came out in March 19th. This is New York Times. You really should look it up. March 2, 1947. And it's headlined, Pipeline for U.S. Adds to Middle East Issues. And then the subtitle is, Oil Concessions Raise Questions Involving the Position of, guess who? Russia. So you can see how long this war has been going on. I call it the Great Game for Oil. This is 47. And of course, now I can't find my glasses. So I will try to read just one sentence from here. Protection of that investment and the military and economic security that it represents. I can't underscore that enough. Military and economic security that it represents inevitably will become one of the prime objectives of American foreign policy in this area, which already has become a pivot of world politics and one of the main focal points of rivalry between East and West. Okay, so why am I interested in this pipeline? It was my father's last mission, and after doing that work, he went on a plane flight to Ethiopia with 5 other Americans. They were going to check out the oil in Ethiopia. They were interested. Well, I won't go into it. If you want to know, you can ask. But the point is, the plane crashed. It never made it to Ethiopia. My father was killed. 5 others were killed. And I was 6 weeks old. So I never knew my father. But much later, when I became a journalist in Lebanon, I started wondering, like, what was that plane crash all about? What was that last mission all about? This ended up being a, decades-long investigation, and the results is my book, Follow the Pipelines, titled Uncovering the Mystery of a Lost Spy and the Deadly Politics of the Great Game for Oil. So I want to show you a map of what's all this stuff. Anyway, I want to show you there. I want to just put the book up, and I want you to look very briefly at the map that's on the cover of the book, and you will see 3 pipeline routes. So here it is. Look at it. There you go. That is the Eastern Mediterranean. It comes out backward when I show it up. I don't know. Anyway, what we're looking, this is the Eastern Mediterranean. And see, there's the Red Sea. Anyway, the dotted line was the planned route of the pipeline. The other 2 white pipelines, that's the Iraq Petroleum Pipeline. That was built after World War I.
Yeah.
And it terminated in 2 different places, Haifa, Palestine, and in Lebanon. So people really are not aware that Lebanon, that whole eastern part of the Mediterranean, is of great national security importance because major pipelines terminated in there. And so why are pipelines important? Why is oil important? I mean, think about it. Usually when I talk to people, they say, well, oil's important because it's for our energy. It, fuels our cars and our industries and so on. The one thing that people don't say, I would think a lot of you are savvier on this. The reason that you don't see it mentioned in the press is because it's the fuel of the military, for Christ's sake. And what they found out after World War I and World War II is that Germany lost both wars because its Air Force and its army and its trucks ran out of gas. That's really why they lost the war. So this was a huge message to any power that wanted to have major power status. You had to protect the oil and find oil. And I sued the CIA under FOIA, and I got this great document. And just as he was going out to Lebanon in 1944, there's this one great piece that he wrote. It was all about what was expected of him. It was called Analysis of Work. And there's this one line. It's like, what's important for America? And what he said, it's the oil of Saudi Arabia, and it must be protected at all costs. Okay? So then I started thinking, well, maybe that became a meme. Maybe that continued on. This was in 1944. And what I learned is it was a meme. And if you look into the Middle East crisis and really dig, you will find out that all the wars have been fought in the Middle, they're about oil. They're about getting access to oil. And the reason that the American people are not told this until recently when it's so obvious, but the reason why they weren't told this was because what mother would want to send her kids off to war if she thought that it was going to be to advance the profits of oil companies? So you have to come up with pretexts for the war. So now let's just fast forward. Let's go to the Strait of Hormuz. Let's go to Trump's war in Iran. People are saying, well, why are we there? He kept coming up with different reasons. But the fact is, the one that he really sticks with is that we must prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon. And who could deny that? We don't want nuclear proliferation. We don't want a nuclear power in the hands of the mullahs, who are the enemies of Israel, and they might use their nuclear power to strike Israel. But as you know, even our own intelligence services said that Iran's nuclear power there's no imminent threat. That's the whole point. There's no imminent threat to go in there and bomb the hell out of Iran. And we're living in a time now where a lot of the, if you want to call them third world countries or developing countries or the global south, they are so onto our stupid pretexts going to war. They're onto it and they don't accept it. And so much of the world does not accept the reasons for going into Iran. And thing is about Trump, he's got a big mouth and he's stupid. I mean, he's wily like a criminal, but he's historically ignorant. And so he every couple of times, because I watch this very carefully, there's been a couple of times when he says, well, we're in there for the oil. We're going to get Iran's oil, you know. And I can see some of the old timers in the State Department cringing because you're not supposed to be going to war for oil. But under Trump has become so transparent. I mean, he went to Venezuela because he wanted the oil. And frankly, the neocons, ever since Bush, George W., or even we could go back to HW, they've been eyeing the Iran oil for a long time. They've wanted it. They couldn't get it. These mullahs are, what are they? Very determined, I'll say that much. And what's seldom understood, and I think that's by Trump himself, they have a long memory. They remember the CIA crew that overthrew Mossadegh, their elected leader, who had nationalized the oil, which is a big no-no. If you nationalize oil, you are going to be a target. And so, yeah. But they haven't forgotten that, nor did they forget the Iran hostage crisis or the Iran-Iraq war, So they're very sophisticated people. The Strait of Hormuz, I wrote about it in my book, long before Trump supposedly didn't know that you don't want to get involved in the Strait of Hormuz. Any intelligent leader knows you do not want that. And look what's happened. He got into the trap and now he can't get out of it. And who's benefiting? Well, the Russians are, the Chinese are benefiting. And of course, oil companies are making out terrifically because of the huge oil prices that are affecting the American people. So if you guys want to ask me questions about Strait of Hormuz, I can tell you that already because of this, they're all looking for alternative pipeline routes. And one of them is a pipeline through Yemen. I wrote about it in the book because the Yemen war, the book first came out in 2020. It was called The Crash of Flight 3804. And that was the hardcover edition. We decided when time to do the paperback, we should choose a different title because people got confused by the crash number and I don't know, they didn't really understand what it's about. So follow the pipelines. But I did have a map of Yemen, and I'm going to put the book up. This should have been a PowerPoint, but I just didn't have time to put it together. But at any rate, the map is in the book. And what it shows, the Saudi Arabians figured out that just in case there was a problem with the Strait of Hormuz, they should develop another pipeline scheme that would avoid it. And so, as many of you may remember, back in 2015, the war in Yemen was one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world. And the Saudis were behind it. The U.S.-backed faction in Yemen was behind it. The U.S. was behind it, was providing arms. And the whole point is they would run this pipeline avoid the Strait of Hormuz, and come out at the Arabian Sea. So I was just refreshing myself and finding out, sure enough, they're looking at reviving that pipeline. The only problem is there's still conflict in Yemen because the Yemeni people weren't exactly asked their permission to run the pipeline. And this would be particularly the Houthis, who were a Islamist tribal group who managed to take over a major part of Yemen. And so there's been this conflict going on. But yeah, so that pipeline, there's renewed interest in that pipeline. Now, there's another pipeline scheme that's going on. It's called IMEC, and this is the India Middle East Corridor. And I really encourage you guys to Google this. When I was first looking at it, there was like, 2 maps, something like that. Now, because of the Strait of Hormuz problem, there's like tons and tons of analysis of this IMEC because the idea is to run a pipeline from India to go underneath the Arabian Sea, hook up with the United Arab Emirates, which is on the eastern coast of Saudi Arabia, transit across Saudi Arabia, and end in Haifa, Israel. And what I found most interesting is that it is following the same path of the Trans-Arabian pipeline that my father worked on. That got closed in 1982 during the Lebanese Civil War that lasted 15 years. Now, one other thing I will add, you must be concerned about Gaza, and why is it that no one seems to be able to stop the genocide in Gaza? And what I point out in my book is that Netanyahu has a dream. Netanyahu's dream is to create an energy corridor that goes along the whole eastern coast of the Mediterranean, and that means Gaza is then going north. Gaza, Israel, Lebanon, Syria. They all border the eastern Mediterranean. He wants to build a pipeline corridor, not just great real estate, that's on the agenda too, but a pipeline corridor. And if you see pictures of IMEC, you will even see one that illustrates this idea. There's only one problem. No bank will finance such a major infrastructure project. So how do you deal with it? Simple. You wipe out the people of Gaza. Just get rid of them. Depopulate it, demilitarize it, get rid of Al Jazeera, and then you can do your pipeline route. Now, why would Netanyahu want to do this? Because between 2000 and 2010, huge quantities of oil and natural gas were discovered off the coast of the Eastern Mediterranean. And I have the maps in my book and shows these massive concessions that are going on. And Israel has fought 3 wars against Gaza, and it's in my book. Why? They do not want the Gazan people to get access to $500 billion worth of oil and natural gas. And when this was first discovered in 2000, Yasser Arafat was still around, and he was saying, oh my God, thank God, finally we'll have our own economic dependence. And BP, British Petroleum, came in and did some exploring. But then Netanyahu did 3 invasions of Gaza. They were in 2009, 2014, and then, the recent one. And part of it is to prevent the Gazans from having access to their own offshore oil and natural gas. And the latest subject on that, and I found this through a piece from Al Jazeera. If you want to Google it, Al Jazeera and Lebanon and Gaza. Sorry, not Lebanon and Gaza. What you'll see. Wait a minute, I take it back. I want to do Al Jazeera and Lebanon because now the Gazification is going on in Lebanon, right? So Israel is trying to push farther and farther into Israel. And they show the area where it wants to push the farthest. And then what Al Jazeera has done is shown that this area extends out into the ocean. So what Israel's trying to do is to take control of Lebanon's access to this oil. And it's out now preventing it from happening. There was a memorandum of understanding a few years ago, and the Lebanese thought they'd had it worked out. Not now. Netanyahu is bound and determined to control it all. So that is the nightmare of Lebanon that's going on right now, and God knows how far they want to go up. So I think I will stop there. I think I want to end on a quote that, then you can ask me questions. End on a quote that my father said. This was when he was teaching Middle Eastern students at the American University of Beirut in the 30s. He was sent there right after college, and he taught them English, and it blew his mind. And he changed from a specialization in German languages and literature, and then he discovered about Nazis, and he was appalled. So he switched to Middle Eastern history and Islam. And he was an Arabist. And yes, he had concerns about what was going to happen when you transport a European settlers plunk into an Arab territory and the conflict it was likely to cause. This is back in the 40s. But one thing that really affected him in the 30s, and he gave a course to the students. He was told that he was going to teach them how to live. So he decided, somebody above him told him that. And so he thought he would talk about toleration. And this is what he said. First, he gave some shocking examples of Christian intolerance: the Inquisition, the wars of religion, the persecution of scientists. From there, he went on to Jewish intolerance, citing selections from the Old Testament. But when he got to Muslim intolerance, one of his students stood up and loudly protested his teacher's insulting reflections on Islam. Toleration, the student said, and get this is very interesting, is a virtue that is possessed by people who don't believe or are easygoing in their faith, a virtue that only those who are rich and prosperous, strong and confident, unafraid of menaces could afford. But if you believe and your faith is challenged, the student went on, if you love your country and see its independence denied, if you have ideals and see them destroyed, then you have two choices: intolerance or moral extinction. Now that describes to me the Iranians, but it would also describe the Lebanese. I recently went to a meeting of the Lebanese American Renaissance Project. You can ask me about it. But they're so sick of war. They've had a civil war. They had all the Palestinians coming in after 100,000 Palestinians came into Lebanon after the Nakba. They've had a lot of crisis since, an economic collapse. There was the bombing of the Beirut harbor. I mean, they're sick of it. They want the Lebanon back that used to be, which I completely understand because it was beautiful. It used to be the Paris of the Middle East. So what I'm trying to do in my book is to just try to take the conversation above all these internecine wars, divide and rule, and try to show who ultimately is benefiting from these wars and why. That's why I now have a Substack, which I call Who Benefits. And let's talk about how the oil companies have really generated these wars, and then maybe there might be a more understanding how the Arabs and the Jews and the Christians and the Druze, they've all been victimized by these wars. We got to get over the divide and rule and look at the top who benefits. So I'll end on that, and I welcome your questions. Hello, does anyone have a question?
Any questions? Yeah, that was great, Charlotte. Really interesting.
Odile has a question. Odile.
Okay.
So what do you think is going to happen in the next few years? What do you see?
Well, it's hard, it's hard for me to see. I mean, I watch TV regularly. No one knows. No one knows what's going to come out of this. I mean,
It's a mess.
it's serious, very serious. It's very serious. For one thing,
Yes.
I can tell you this. There's going to be more interested in alternative energy. You can't blockade the sun and the wind. And I have a feeling that this is sinking in. What they're doing right now is they're looking for alternative pipeline routes, but all the great powers must come to a conclusion that this is too unsafe. They can't continue this way. So there has been more interest in alternative energy, for sure. More people are getting electric cars because of the price of gas. So I see that one thing is happening. But in terms of peace in the Middle East, it's hard because the Israeli people and Odile, you can add your thoughts about this. But a lot of the Israeli people, they don't get the whole news. I was told by one person that all they want is to wake up and think it's over, and the Gaza thing is sort of far away, although the Israeli soldiers are now being killed and Israeli apartments are getting bombed. So, but you got this crazy right-wing faction in power, and it's really hard to know. It seems that he and Trump are like this, even though sometimes Trump says hold off. But the ceasefires are failing in Lebanon and in Gaza,
And in
even
Gaza,
though
yeah.
I mean, yeah, so more death and destruction. And as long as these two fascist idiots are in power, it's a very, very dangerous situation. And everybody in the world understands it. I mean, the rule of law, forget it. International law out the window. They're into a power grab, and they're into making as much money as they can. And the world stands aghast. The one thing I will say, though, why wasn't there more opposition to the genocide in Gaza? And I think there was not, because most of the big powers think that, oh yeah, wouldn't it be better if we could have development along the coast? Let's do the Abraham Accords. Let's draw in the Gulf countries more. They got the
But
money and they can develop. Yeah, go
there
ahead.
were major demonstrations in London, in many of the cities in Europe, major demonstration for Gaza.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
true.
not reported, but they happened.
Well, thank God for the demonstrations. Of course, we remember the major demonstrations before the invasion of Iraq, and
Yes.
didn't matter. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
They're so powerful.
And yeah, the leader of the European country didn't protest.
Yeah. So it's not a good time. It's a dark time. And let's face it, from my perspective, Trump is fast forwarding in his fascist agenda. It's really frightening. He now wants to pay off the insurrectionists, so he wants to create his army. And one part of fascism that people, I think, still don't understand is not just that you have authoritarian rule. You need an army to help you. Like the brown shirts, right? So that's what he's doing. He doesn't care if as long as he's got his 30%, basically, the diehards, Christian nationalists. How sad is that? They're all on board. I don't know if they want to take up arms. Then you've got the settlers. So yeah, it's a dark time. And how can I predict? Do you have any idea where we're going to be heading, Odile?
No, I don't.
Yeah,
But I don't follow it as much as you do.
yeah. Well, I don't know. I suppose I don't know if I'm doing a sequel to the book, but my Substacks have covered the Middle East. It's covered Iran, Gaza, Lebanon. I'm going to do a part 2 on Lebanon about
And
my
we just
visit
had a
down.
group coming back from the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, the 5th year review, and it's not hopeful either.
It isn't even, yeah. And then
Yeah.
you got the Gaza flotilla, and
And
of
they all
course,
they got arrested, many of them.
I see Libby has her hand up. Libby Hutchby.
Well, I was just sharing gratitude before anything else for all that you dared to do, and to share with us. I'm just daring to ask. I always thought we were going to have war over water before we would have war over oil. And look at, I mean, how wrong was I? So I actually thought that Saudi Arabia and Israel had some sort of intention to deal with their need for water and pipelines and that too. So do you want to add that to any comment, or shall we just go back to the oil?
well, first of all, your voice wasn't loud enough. I couldn't hear it well. Can somebody either talk more loudly so I could understand your question?
I'm sorry, is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
She said that
I was just
she always thought the war were going to be about water, but now what you describe is all about oil.
Oh yeah. Well, there was concern about water, the Litani River and diverting the Litani River. That's often been a part of the conflict. But compare the value of water to human life, of course, to oil and the profits that are to be made from it. And oil trumps water. It's just, and Lib, is what I'm telling you about the oil factor in Israel and Gaza. Were you aware of that before?
yes.
Oh, okay, you were. Well, that's
Well,
because
I have
you're a
been.
WILPF
I was.
member.
I've been fighting frack and methane for years in
Uh-huh.
pipelines in North Carolina. That's where I am, and
Oh, good.
and so uh, that's just an ongoing issue in North Carolina right now as we speak. The data center proposals and all of that goes.
Absolutely. And drill baby drill, that's our president. Why drill baby drill? You all know the reason. Is because of the AI data centers. They are massively energy dependent. They need huge quantities of natural gas to power them. And so that's why Trump is going all over the world. He wanted Greenland and he wants Canada. And he thinks they're gonna give in to him. And I don't think that's going to happen. But meanwhile, he's just looking for wherever he can get it and then pay off his rich buddies. And that's what's going on. So, wasn't there somebody else?
Jen has a
Jen.
question.
Jen has
Yeah.
her hand up.
Yeah, well, I want to echo what Liv said. And thank you for being here, Charlotte. This has been a really interesting time here with all of us today. But I for sure want to know how to get on your Substack.
Oh, how to get on it? You go to Charlotte Dennett, Charlotte Dennett, I think it's .substack.com. But the actual title of it is Who Benefits Cui Bono. I was going to do a cui bono, and someone said, well, not everybody knows what cui bono means. So, all right, who benefits cui bono? If you Google it, you'll find it. And if you go to that charlottedennettsubstack.com, you'll see all the different articles I've written. They're on the website. And yeah. And by the way, if any of you should want to get my book, and if you like the book, I need some new things on Amazon, some new reviews from people. Just to keep it going. It's driving me crazy. I mean, I feel like this book should be known internationally. It should be a freaking international bestseller. I mean, it's so pertinent. It's not. And I'm kind of pissed off at my publisher for lazy promotion. Just,
Is it translated in other language?
No other, it has not been in any other language. Nope.
Oh, that's a problem.
Would you?
Yeah. I would love it to be in another language. If anyone has any ideas, share them with me. But another thing I know, friends, is that when you write truth to power, you're not going to get the kind of help that those writers who take on less sensitive subjects have. It's just, they're going to go after you. Thy Will Be Done, that book that I wrote with my husband, if listen to the title, you'll know what I mean. Thy Will Be Done, the Conquest of the Amazon, Nelson Rockefeller and Evangelism in the Age of Oil. And that book was all about us investigating the genocide of Indians and who was behind it and who was behind this evangelical missionary organization that was working in Latin America. And why were they turning a blind eye to the genocide of Indians? And after years and years of research, we found out it was the evangelical missionary organization that was very, very sophisticated and used pacified Indians by linguistics. They taught the Indians how to read and write in their own language, which seemed like a really liberal thing to do. And but behind that, they were translating the Bible for the Indians, and they were trying to convert them to Christians. And that way, when the big Western oil companies and agribusiness and so on moved in on their lands, they wouldn't fight back. That's the whole purpose. This group, it's called Wycliffe Bible Translators, and abroad it's called the Summer Institute of Linguistics. It's all over the world now. Yeah. And now, as you know, we're looking at the Christian nationalist movement. What we learned is that corporate America knows how to manipulate missionaries. Because they'll go out where no one else will go, because they've got this vision of converting people and saving them, and so they are massively used, and that's what's happening in Israel right now. Well, Ellen,
yeah,
I think Ellen had a question.
Didn't yes, you? I was wondering what's the name of the book that you want us all to read?
Well, Follow the Pipelines. That's the book. Follow the Pipelines, because I have 12 maps in there. I have 12 pipeline maps in there. Once you look at them, if you have a hard time, you don't have a lot of time, you just look at the maps and read the captions of the maps, and you're gonna start having aha moments. You're gonna say, holy shit, so that's what it was really all about. And there it is. Yep. Well, oh, thanks for putting that up. There it is. Don't you see? Yep. And by the way, I was looking at the dotted pipeline for so long. I was ignoring these pipelines, and I don't know if this has happened to you, but sometimes like you look at a document once and you read it, and then you look at it again, and oh my God, here's something else. That pipeline, I start to research the Iraq petroleum pipeline. Like, when was it built? It was built in the 30s. When was it conceived? It was conceived during World War I. And then I started thinking, well, when? And then I started to think about 1917 and the Balfour Declaration, which was the British support for a Jewish homeland in Palestine. And usually we read about it as such, but we don't know that it was simply a letter. And it was a letter from the Foreign Secretary, Lord Balfour, to Lord Rothschild, Walter Rothschild, who was major CN of oil and banking. And so then I realized they were very on top of the concern that Britain needed access to Iraqi oil. But if they're going to get access to Iraqi oil, which they did in World War I, that's what the whole Lawrence of Arabia story is about: getting the Turks out and going and conquering Iraq so they can get the oil, because Britain didn't have any oil. Well, how are they going to get the oil? It's got to be by a pipeline. That's the easiest way. Where's the pipeline going to terminate? Haifa. And that's where it terminated. So that puts the creation of the state of Israel in a whole new context. And there are some Israeli scholars now, they've gotten into the archives, and they're beginning to explore that angle of it.
I have a
Cheryl.
yes,
Cheryl, Mary.
yes. Thank you very much, Charlotte. This is amazing. I've heard some of this from you before, but it's always good to hear it all at once.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
are you saying that some of these pipelines actually are not running oil anymore? I think you said some of them are not used anymore.
Yeah, they're closed, some of them. Yeah,
All of them.
the tap line is closed, but they're looking at that again. And the Iraq petroleum pipeline was closed. Good question. It was closed in 1948. You know, it ran from 33 to 48, no problem. But because of the Israeli War of Independence, the Iraqis, who were nationalists at the time, they were opposed to their oil going to Haifa. So they closed the pipeline. And one of Netanyahu's top objectives when Bush invaded Iraq was to reopen that pipeline. And he even blurted out, he said, soon the oil is going to be flowing to Haifa again. And some people were really pissed off that he blurted that out. He wasn't supposed to say it. That's what it was about. Netanyahu was a huge supporter of the war in Iraq. And the only reason he couldn't achieve that is because the guy that was going to be behind opening up that pipeline, he was an Iraqi living in exile. His name was Ahmed Chalabi. And unfortunately for Netanyahu, Chalabi was the guy who came up with the pretext weapons of mass destruction. So once they knew that was a false pretext, then he lost all credibility. So to this day, they have not been able to achieve the reopening of that pipeline. And by the way, Syria is now getting involved. If you want to ask me what's going on with this guy, Shara, I can talk about that. But anyway,
just that my second question was this issue of the deposits underground, under the sea, off of the coast of Gaza. Is it within the 12-mile limit that it really belongs to Gaza? Because it's within that 12 miles off the coast, which, okay.
Yes, it is in that. And I have a map and it'll show the fields. The Leviathan field is the biggest one. But
are there people already drilling there, or it's all speculative?
Guess which oil company is involved in drilling? Can anyone guess? Well, I'll tell you what it is. Chevron.
The wife of the British Prime Minister is involved.
Oh, no kidding.
That's their company.
Their company is involved in drilling there?
Yeah.
Okay. Odile, maybe you can send me info. I don't know about that, but I know Chevron's in there big time. And the thing about Chevron is the modern version of Standard Oil of California, which got the concession in Saudi Arabia. Huge Rockefeller owned in those days oil company, and probably one of the most powerful and one of the most experienced in the world. So I wasn't surprised at all to see Chevron in there. And I said BP got involved. I don't think it is right now. I'm not sure. Or maybe it could be helping the Israelis as well. And by the way, there are now peace groups are beginning to analyze this relationship to who's funding the war, who's funding Netanyahu's war, and who's fueling it. I think I did a piece for Counterpunch on that, so that peace organizations are beginning to look at that. Who are the oil companies and what is their role? Anyway.
Okay, Mary?
There's another question here.
Yeah.
Yes, Charlotte, thank you very much for this and for your previous books. And I'm glad to see that you're proud about the maps. And that's my question for you, because I'm thinking, how hard did you have to work, and how many what are like some of the main archives you had to dig through to get that information and find those maps? And can you just say a little bit about the work it took for you to do this?
Well, actually, you're not going to believe this. You can find a lot of it by just simply Googling. Seriously. So let's see, I've got now some of this I did a lot of work in the National Archives, which by the way is one of my favorite places in the world. You know, the famous archives that that Trump, withheld documents from, right? Not supposed to do that. It's an absolutely wonderful resource. It's in DC and in Maryland. So I spent many, many years in there. A lot of my father's papers are declassified there. And it's just a huge resource. But yeah, I mean, look, if you think there's all right, let's give an example. How about Sudan, right? There's a lot of conflict going on in Sudan. So just Google Sudan and oil and see what comes up.
Oh,
Or
yeah, it's in the
Ethiopia.
south.
Yeah. It's all about oil.
Yeah,
And Ethiopia, northern Ethiopia, of course, that's where my father was headed. But yeah, you can find the maps at any of these places. Go online. If you think that there's a conflict, mind you, it's not always about oil, but it often is. Like Congo, what was that about? Copper and uranium, I think.
tungsten.
And yeah, there are precious metals, yes. So it's but oil can is still the premier resource of the world because it's the fuel of the military and continues to be so. Yeah, but that's recently. That's how I found the maps.
Okay, thank you
can
very,
dig,
very
and
much.
it's pretty easy.
And then you can trust them. Well, they have sources that you trust.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm very careful on the sources. I have to tell you, I tend to protect myself by relying mostly on, you know, Western sources because I don't want to be dismissed. So yes, that's what I do, and you will see the sources in these in all of these maps. I have the maps showing what happened in the war in Iraq and how the troops first went to protect that pipeline. I mean, it's just appalling and disgusting, but that's the way it is.
Thank you.
And
Do you?
that way, I'm very appreciative of what Chelsea Green, the publisher, did. You know, the one thing I regret is there's no pictures in this book. It's all maps. So maybe my Substack is going to be part of a bigger something, bigger biography with more pictures and so on. A lot of people have told me that they like the personal story, you know?
Sure.
It's not just the pipeline story.
And it isn't too hard to get permission to use those maps in a book like yours that really goes after the
No,
power.
no, it was not difficult to get permission.
Well, good. Thank
Yep,
you.
yep. And sometimes, um, I would get the information, then we would reproduce the maps in our own way. So I have to sort of correct myself. A lot of some of these maps, um, we took the information, then we created our own maps. That was another thing that we did. But there has never ever been a problem. If Syria, I have a whole chapter, is the Syria war a pipeline war? And there were competing pipeline schemes on that horrible civil war in Syria. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So are we done?
I think so. There don't seem to be any other questions, and that was so great, Charlotte. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate my audience, fellow WILF members, so keep on trucking.
Okay, well, thank you so
Okay,
much.
sure. Take care.
Okay.
I'm gonna over and
Okay,
out
good
now.
night. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna
Okay, thank
stay
you.
on for in case anybody has any WILF questions. Jane, I always advertise at the end. If people have WILF questions or comments, you can do that. But thank you.
Okay.
Oh,
Charlotte.
I did put an announcement in there too about an event we have coming up through MEPJAC. So take a look at that before you go.
Oh, good.
All right.
In the
Sure,
chat.
if you have not seen the film Earth's Greatest Enemy, you will really appreciate
What's the name of the film?
Earth's Greatest Enemy. Abby.
Abby Martin.
Abby Martin, right. And it is the military, and you'll find oil involved in it, right?
I didn't get the first name. Somebody's greatest enemy.
Earth.
Earth, the planet.
It's in the
Earth.
chat.
Earth. Oh, Earth. Earth. Okay, I'll make a note of that. Thank you.
Got it.
Okay, Earth's greatest enemy. Yeah, I can believe it. The survival of our planet. Jeez, yeah, okay. Okay, over and out.
Okay.
Hey, bye, everybody.
If people
Bye.
can leave, but if anyone wants to stay on, I'm here. So, yeah. So, but thank you for coming.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Daphne. And McGregor.
So McGregor was at the Vandenberg launch yesterday morning. Was a ICBM launched from Vandenberg, a test that our missiles still work, right, Greg? And
yes, it was wonderful. We only had 24-hour notice this time, so it was very relaxing because most people couldn't possibly go, so there was no anxiety over attendance. We had 3 people and it was wonderful. It was just reserved, having such short notice removed all
worry.
pressure.
Right. So could you, what were the clouds clear? Could you actually see the rocket?
Crystal clear. It was a beautiful night. It went up immediately, and Leah was very creative. She had a dance. She had lighted peace sign. So the people coming out, they were doing special training. There were more than 200 cars of people coming out afterwards. They had people brought in to train to do it, including like huge busloads, military busloads with what were obviously short-haired young people inside. It was an amazing experience. And it was.
Did you get some photos then?
We got some photos. We barely had time to get enough sleep. Because I'm talking like, midnight today. So got back. And I'll have time to think about it later, but I really want to say this time we got so much support. I think because of the short notice and the recent horrible threats by the United States to use nuclear weapons against Iran, the implications when they revealed the location of an Ohio-class submarine armed with submarine-launched, missiles. They revealed it. That was a threat. In addition to the nutty tweets, but you never know from that insane mind. But this was our own military saying, look, and this, as Cheryl knows, this test was early. They did it much earlier. It was done as a threat.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being there.
Yes.
I have another meeting to go to myself. So thank you, Diane, for getting Charlotte on. We
Yeah.
are still going to try and get her and Val Mogadam to speak later in late June, because Val is really knowledgeable about Iran at the current time. And anyway, so.
But she's so good. That's great. It'll be fine. Yeah. So good. Okay. Does anyone else have anything you want to say? If not, we'll sign off.